Hey there, magical experimenters. This is Taylor Ellwood here, and I am doing another video on rediscovering my identity. And if you happen to be watching this video, go ahead and click the subscription button and then the bell button so that way you get notified whenever I go live. And then go ahead and feel free to like and comment if you feel so inclined and moved. So I want to talk today a bit further about rediscovering identity, my identity, of course, but also just in general. So yesterday was the anniversary of the family wedding, which happened 10 years ago. And so, of course, it was going to be a weird day for me, and I knew that. And so I decided to be proactive. I was like, I'm not going to write today. I'm not going to really do anything on a screen. I am just going to go and I'm going to DoorDash for a while, and then I'm going to have dinner with friends. And that's exactly what I did. It was a hot day. If you're in Oregon right now, you know that like we're going through a little bit of a heat wave. And but I honestly found it to be very satisfying to just drive. It gave me a chance to process things. And it's interesting because what I've been thinking about lately in the last couple of days is like it hit me earlier this week. Like it's kind of been hitting me the last couple of weeks. I lost everything, right? Like that's kind of been the realization. I lost my home, I lost my cats, I lost my wife, I lost a bunch of things. Not really missing the things so much, but certainly I miss my cats. I miss the comfortable home I was living in, and I miss my wife, or ex-wife now. I mean, she's not my wife anymore. She's an ex-wife, but I still miss her. But nonetheless, I began to really think about it from the perspective of, well, what have I also gained? And I've been thinking about this off and on. And I had this really interesting realization. What I've gained is this unique opportunity. Here I am in my mid-40s. And I have this chance to reinvent my life. I have a chance to start it all over again. And all the doors of possibility are open to me, or at least a lot of them are, So anyway, I go out dashing yesterday. And I'd done an alchemical Saturn working earlier this week. I created a painting of this alchemical Saturn working. And I feel like everything this week that's hit has been basically has come about in part because of that alchemical Saturn working. I'm having these realizations like, and I start thinking to myself, well, what do I want with my life? Where do I want my life to go? Because when you go through a change like divorce and stuff like that, you do have these opportunities to reinvent your life. Now, in some cases, you get out of this and you still have a job and all this other stuff, and you just continue doing the things you're doing. But in my case, I didn't have a job at the time. I had to, start doing DoorDash. And then I got a job recently. And this job is customer support job. And I'm kind of like, I've been lately thinking like, do I really even want to do this job? And I know, people would be like, Taylor, like, come on, you just got the job. I'd be like, but do I want to do this job? I actually am in this rare situation. I have no debt. I don't have infinite resources, but I have some resources. I have a place to stay for as long as I need to while I get back on my feet. And I have other ways to earn money. What is it I really want to do? What is going to bring meaning to me? And what's going to help me preserve my creativity and imagination and all that other stuff? Because, with customer support, you're spending all day dealing with people. And let me tell you something, it is exhausting dealing with people, especially when people are upset about something or they want you to do things for them or things like that. And I mean, in contrast to that, yeah, would I say I griped a bit about the DoorDash? Sure. But DoorDash is a lot easier. I mean, I'm not dealing with people in the same way. And I'm not saying DoorDash is what I want to do with the rest of my life. Far from it. But I mean, it's interesting when you realize kind of like, okay, sometimes you have to do something to figure out why you don't want to do it or what, or things along those lines. And I'm like, I have this opportunity. And not only that, but I have this opportunity to consider, like, do I really want to get back into this white collar lifestyle where I'm trying to make enough money to pay the rent and take care of all the things and basically doing work I don't like just to have a bit of time at the end of the day in order to do something I do like. Now, realistically, any work I do right now or take on is going to be like that. Like I could be driving deliveries for Amazon. Funny story, I'll tell you about that in a moment. But I could be driving deliveries for Amazon or doing DoorDash or whatever, and I'm still going to have to do something in order to bring some money in, and then just write, in my spare time. So it's not like that's going to change, and I know that. Or I get a job at a restaurant or a food industry thing or a grocery store or a warehouse or whatever. Same deal, and I know that. But then I'm kind of like, well, but what do you really want? What matters to you? Where do you even want to be? Do you still want to even be in Portland? Well, I don't know if I want to be in Portland. I've been thinking about that too. I'm like, maybe I want to end up on the coast someday. Maybe I should start looking at like what it would take to do that, and like what the minimum needs would be for me to basically live my life the way I want to. So anyway, I go out door dashing yesterday, and part of the day through, I'm at this building trying to drop off this pizza. It's hot outside. Person has said, call me on my cell before you drop it off. I try calling them. They're not there. This guy pulls up in a thing, and he's wearing an Amazon shirt, and he lets me in. And I said to him as we're walking in, I'm like, do you like your job? He's like, yeah, I like my job. It's $19 an hour, and I get paid overtime. I made $300 the other night, and all this other stuff. And I'm like, huh. He's like, I'll give you the number for the dispatcher when I get out, and you can call them. So he gives me the number. I haven't called them yet, but he gives me the number. And I'm like, this is another door opening to me. It's not doing DoorDash exactly. It's still dropping stuff off and driving all day. It's not doing customer support per se, because I'll interact with the customer some, but I'm not having to deal with them. Gonna have to think this one through a bit. And it was just fascinating to me how the universe opened a door to me and showed me, like, here's a possibility. And I think, like, when we're really in alignment with ourselves, and when we've done magical work to manifest changes in our lives, sometimes the changes we get are what we need, or the opportunities or whatever. And then we have to, of course, decide if we're going to go through with them. A lot of people won't look at it in that way. I mean, so much of the way that magic is portrayed is we've got to get an end result. We've got to achieve a specific outcome, and then boom, we're done. But because I think of magic as a generative organic process, and because I think that we sometimes need to really be open to how flexible reality can be when we allow it to be, and when we allow ourselves to be that flexible, I think it's worth it to recognize that. And so I start thinking in the back of my head, like, if I took that job, what would the difference be? Well, I'm not dealing with customers all day. I'm just driving around dropping stuff off. That's easy. It saves my creativity and imagination, because I'm not having to put a lot of that put a lot of this thinking toward other people's things. I'm putting it toward my own stuff. And when I'm on the road, I'm processing whatever emotional baggage I need to process right now, which there is a fair amount, and mental baggage and things like that. And yet, at the same time, I get to be outside part of the time. I'm just kind of doing my own thing and living my own life. And so it really hit me. And then it's like, and at the same time, like, if I decide I don't want to live in Portland much longer, I can do something else. I can find where I want to live and save some money toward that. And then, when I get enough money, and see if there's even a possibility of transferring or something like that. But if there isn't, get enough money, move there, and then, find a job there and kind of do my own thing. Now, a lot of people would say, that's crazy, Taylor. You're taking a risk. You're not staying safe. You're not staying secure. And my answer to that would be, you can't always be safe and secure. When you put safety and security above everything else in your life, you end up giving away a lot of happiness and fulfillment. And I've done that. I've done that cardinal sin before. I know that. and it is something that ends up haunting you, because then you end up, there is a dissatisfaction at the root of yourself, because you're always like, well, I'm doing this, I'm settling for this because it's what's convenient, it's what's safe. And I'm realizing right now, like, I don't have to do that. Now, if I had a bunch of debt or something like that, I might need to do that, or, but I don't. And I was in an interview earlier today. You guys will eventually see it. And we were talking about this. And I said, like, what people need to do is they need to question what they want versus what they need, and be open to what they need, because sometimes what you need is exactly, you don't always get what you want, but you do get what you need, to quote the Rolling Stone song. But I think part of rediscovering our identity is figuring out what we need. Like, what is it I need? Well, I know for me, like, what brings me meaning in my life, it's my writing, it's my art, it's the magical work, it's possibly making music. But, of course, I need to make a sustainable living, and you can do that with writing, and art and magic and all that stuff. It takes a lot of work, and you have to be willing to really stick to it. And I'm certainly willing to do that. I mean, I'm already making some money, with my books and stuff like that. It's just, at the same time, I know right now, like, I need to supplement what I'm doing with my lifestyle. But part of that is because I live in an area that is more expensive. Now, if I move to, like, a smaller town, it's not going to automatically decrease the amount of expenses per se. I'm still going to have to, buy food, pay rent, all that other stuff. And I know that. But I also know I have these doors of possibility open to me. And it's like, why? What is telling me that I have to settle a certain way? What is telling me that I have to go down this route instead of this route over here? Well, right now, I have these opportunities available to me. I can choose what route I want to go down. A lot of people will settle for where they are at, because that's what's convenient and comfortable. It's a rut. We all get into ruts. I mean, I've gotten into ruts. I will get into ruts again. Like, if I move somewhere else, for example, and everything, and I get, a job there, and I get into a routine, or I do DoorDash there, or whatever I end up doing, I'm going to get into a routine of sorts. I'm going to get into a rut. And that's just a normal part of life. And, you just have to accept that. But I think a lot of people get so focused and fixated on trying to stay out of, or they get so focused on the security and the stability and the things that are easy, that they forget a lot of times that, like, what's stable and secure and easy is not necessarily what's best for you. And it can trap you. And that's what I've been realizing this week. I'm like, well, yeah, I lost everything. And I did. I lost everything. I lost my home, cats, all that other stuff. But I also gained things. There was a commensurate price in the sacrifice. I sacrificed everything, and what I've gained is the possibility for everything. I'm not bound to a specific place. I'm not bound to a specific lifestyle. I can choose to do some things. Are there risks? There are definitely risks. And I would say anytime that you're trying to reclaim a part of your identity, you have to be willing to entertain what those risks are and maybe take them. And you can choose not to take them. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, for some people, that's simply not going to work. But you can also choose to take them. I've taken some pretty crazy risks in my life before. I mean, I dropped out of my PhD program in academia, and I moved all the way across the other side of the country in order to see what was going to happen with a relationship. And that was a risk. Did it pan out in the end? Not really. In some ways. I mean, I'm not in that relationship. I haven't been in that relationship for a long time. But it did pan out in other ways. I mean, here I am in the Pacific Northwest, and I actually love it here. And it feels good to be here. And this feels like home. And it brought people into my life. Some have stayed, some have gone. I mean, that's also part of life. So I think, like, when you examine your life, you have to be willing to examine what are the trade-offs. And if you get those opportunities, take them. to examine that. Not everyone does. And I think that when you don't take them, you can end up regretting that. Like, yes, there is security and stability, but what would happen if I took this risk? Sometimes the risk is guaranteed. Like, if I mean, sometimes you have this guaranteed risk where it's like no matter what you do, you're still going to come out ahead. That's kind of an interesting and very rare situation. I've seen that happen for one person in my life, not me. Um, and it'll be interesting to see what that person does with that risk, if they take it or not. But even then, they're still taking a risk. So I guess the point here for you guys is just like, look at your own life. Like, what ruts are you stuck in? And what, if anything, can you do about them? What are you willing to change? What are you willing to do to reclaim your identity? And don't necessarily settle for less. For myself, I mean, I do have this customer support job right now. I don't know if I'm going to keep it or not. I just got done with the training. I'm going to give it a few days and see what happens. But I'm also really listening to my intuition. And my intuition's kind of like, yeah, no, don't. And I'm like, part of me is like, but I get health insurance. I get this, I get that. It's stable and secure. It's a job. And the other part of me is like, yeah, it's a salaried job. Like, if you work overtime, you don't get paid for your overtime. If you do X, Y, and Z, you get paid less for the work that you do. And yes, you have those other things, but you can get those things elsewhere. Is it scary? Is it dangerous? Well, yes, life is scary and dangerous, but it's also rife and full of possibilities. The night is dark and full of terrors, right? To quote the Game of Thrones, but it's also full of possibilities. So, I don't know what I'll do. We'll see. I'm gonna give myself. I don't want to make an impulsive choice, but I also don't want to keep myself trapped in a miserable situation. Been there, done that. Have this T-shirt, and I don't want to ever do that again. And that may mean taking some seemingly crazy risks, and then just trusting that things will work out. And you can do that too, or not. So just remember that, and I hope you guys have a good day.